Hi everyone, today I want to do a little tutorial about how to get a rocket into orbit, because I've seen some people's comments and they basically said I don't know how to do this, or they're having a bit of trouble. So I thought let's just keep this pretty simple. So you have to build the rocket from the top down, basically starting with the payload. Today we're just going to use a very simple setup, which is going to be this little capsule. It weighs 4.9 tons. We're going to add a little tiny ejector on it, and we're going to add a little fuel tank, and because I do this, I'm going to pick, there we go, and we're going to add a small engine on it and some RCS. So this is our spacecraft, or our payload. Essentially, this is what we want to put into orbit. It now weighs about just shy of 21 tons. So what we're going to do now is build the rest of the launcher. Because it weighs 21 tons, this does mean that we need to put more fuel into the bottom of the launcher. So if we have 20 tons, what we want to do is actually go here and we want to add about 40 tons of fuel. Now it's important to note that there's the mass and there's the ton of fuel. So if we do this and we bring two of them, that gets us pretty good. And then obviously we want to pick an engine. Now in the game, regular mode, there's a couple different basic engines. We're going to take the Valiant engine is enough, so we'll pick a Hawk and we'll put it on here, and I'll just do a quick test flight to show you what ends up happening with this setup. And then obviously, it's always a smart move to go and stage your rocket, at least for the launch stages, because you want to be able to switch them very fast. So we're going to launch this, and I'm going to show you what ends up happening. Now we're out of fuel, but we're not quite into orbit yet. So we're going to drop the bottom stage, and we're going to engage this engine, but we're actually going to time warp to about right there, at the height of our circle, or height of our arc, and then we're going to engage the smaller engine. Now the smaller engine, because it has a thrust rate ratio less than 1, needs to basically burn quite a bit of fuel off in order for us to gain the altitude that is required. Otherwise, it's essentially falling right now back to Earth, and we're trying to give it the horizontal velocity so that it will no longer fall. And we go like that, and ta-da. And we are in low Earth orbit, and we still have, as you can see here in the bottom left, plenty of fuel to go wherever we want to go in our mission directives. So let's go to the next stage and build another rocket. So this rocket we're going to build is slightly different. Instead of building it where it's just a little capsule, which we can obviously then bring back to Earth, we're going to go to Other, and apologies for all the mods I have installed, because all we really want is this guy here and this guy here. And in this rocket here, we're going to add a top to it, like so. And this is an aerodynamic cone, which allows us to keep our aerodynamics. And we're going to launch this with some fuel, again, a bit of tonnage, and we'll picospace on it, just so you know which video you're watching. And we're going to add in some thrusters. And so we've gone and made this as a single stage orbit. Now, in this case, the actual thing we're putting in orbit doesn't weigh a lot, so we've added in a significant amount of fuel, because the mass of the probe is only 3 tons. But what we want to do is make sure our thrust to rate ratio is much higher at launch. And the reason for this is because we need to use up all this fuel in order to get to orbit. But you'll see the difference this makes when we get there. And since we don't need any more, we can get rid of the cone, like so, and away it goes. And now we have this guy here set up for our next video, which is a rendezvous. One of the advantages to SSTO, single stage to orbit, is we actually end up having this engine in orbit, which is, 120-ton engine for thrust. So that could be very useful if we want to try to land on another planet using propulsive landing. In the next video, I'm going to show you how we're going to dock with this rocket.